Hello, my name's Andy. Welcome to episode 93 of, well, not keeping water anymore. So now, as you may have seen in a short video, I've now changed the name of the channel to The Ginger Pond Keeper, which I'll explain a bit in a little while. I'm not going to reset the video count though. I'm still up to 93 episodes and we'll stick with that. Now, the reason why I changed the name is twofold really. One, I was never really that convinced by keeping water. It was based on a bit of a inaccurate trope as what you do as a pond keeper or fish keeper. And I really had thought of the Ginger Pond Keeper first. Now there's quite a lot of other YouTube channels, whether they're gardeners or fishermen, who use ginger as a descriptor in their title, and it seems to be quite good for getting people to view your videos. Now the reason I didn't use it right at the very beginning was that I wasn't really showing my face in the videos, so it seemed a little bit silly. But as time goes on, and as you can see here, I do talk to camera more and show myself. So I thought it's good, although a little bit silly and a little bit slightly tongue-in-cheek, to rename my videos The Ginger Pond Keeper, and that's where we'll be going forward. Now, I'm not that happy with some of the branding. I did it in a bit of a rush, so that may change over the coming weeks and months. I want to do a new intro video, but I tend to do that once or twice a year anyway, and just some of the graphics and logos I want to change over time. But yeah, that's where we are. So this is episode 93 of The Ginger Pond Keeper. Now, I'll start this video to say I'm filming it on Boxing Day, hence the Christmas jumper. Not quite sure when I'm going to get it released, but today's the day I'm filming it. And I watched quite a lot of videos lately of people having quite a tough time in winter, when we had that spell for quite an extended period of time of, you know, -4, -5, -8 degrees, and people having a lot of time with their ponds being frozen. Now, I was quite lucky, although we had similar temperatures. I mean, I live relatively down south, but we still had pretty cold temperatures for an extended period. And that was emphasised for us because our heating broke. So we knew quite how cold it was. I didn't have any problems with the pond though. No ice at all, not even small amounts of ice on the pond. No problems in the pipe work and things like that. Now, if you followed this channel for a while, you know that I had a major problem with the pond freezing over back in 2018. And if you want to know more about that, watch episode 2 of this channel, when it was the beast from the east winter and I lost fish and it was fairly terrible. Now, since then, I've made a couple of changes. One, my filtration is all in a shed. It's not brilliantly insulated, but if you watch some recent videos, my summer review, I have put some insulation inside the walls of the shed, and it's certainly better than it was. And there's very little of my pipe work that runs outside in the elements. Now, some of it's underground. You may notice I've got a kind of a walled area around some part of the pond where it reaches the shed. Now, it's not really deep enough to completely avoid frost, but it does obviously block out wind chill and things like that. So it's only really for, and I would say as a pump-fed pond, very little of the pipework is actually exposed. So I think that definitely does help. And the other thing I do, and again, I'm probably basing this on science that isn't as complex as it really is, but I think the more that the water's moving, the less chance it's got of freezing. So I don't turn down my pumps in winter. Certainly if there's a really cold spell coming up, I keep them up the same rate. Also, I've got an air disc in the corner of the pond and I keep that going at the same rate that I have in the summer. And that's really all to keep water moving and flowing. And although really fast flowing water can freeze, and certainly faster flowing water than the water moving through my system, I still think it's probably a safer bet. Now, I know some people don't like to do that because they're worried about making water colder, and I think I've talked a lot in previous videos about how I think in a body of water the size of ponds, I think moving the water around doesn't really affect the overall temperature. And as I said as well, I'm not so worried about how cold the pond gets. I'm really only worried about how quickly it gets cold. Now, I won't go into that in any more depth now. If you watch episode 69, which is carp in winter or carp in the cold, I can't remember what I called it, it'll be up there. I go into more depth about my thoughts on it anyway. I wouldn't suggest I'm an expert, but they're my thoughts. Now, so for this video, now we get into this video properly, I really want to talk about my plans for 2023. Now, I probably should say, as a YouTuber who wants to get more subscribers and get more views, that I'm really planning on doing lots for the pond, lots in and around the pond, lots for the filtration, really develop things, have some new ideas, but I'm really not. And that's really for two reasons. Firstly, I think for the space I've got and the money I've got as good a filtration as I'm going to get. I think the final piece in the jigsaw was the pressure filter before the Tempest. I think that solved lots of problems, and I think that's going to work really well over the coming year. And the other reason is I don't want to mess around too much. I want a year of consistency and stability, which I think I probably said last year as well, but this year I really want it. And by that I mean I just don't want to change too much. I want to get better at what it is I do and how I go about the hobby, which I'll go into more details in a minute. But I don't want to change too much. So really the only change I'm going to make to the filtration this year is to add more media to the moving bed, because it can take a lot more media. Now, again, I've not really had any water quality issues, but based on some of the other things I'm going to do this year, I think more biological media isn't really a bad thing if you've got space for it. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, I also don't think there's an awful lot I can really change with my current system. The only slight thing I could change is I could send the water from the Tempest into the moving bed and then back into the pond, rather than straight from the Tempest to the pond. But again, I might only consider that if I start to have water quality issues further down the line. Then I might do that. And it's a relatively easy fix that I'll see how it goes this summer, and then maybe next winter, when it's easier to shut your filtration down for a couple of days to do some jobs, I might do it then. So what am I going to do with the pond? Well, there's a couple of things I really want to focus on this year. Well, three things really. And they are all around consistency, but just being more, I don't like the word proactive, but it really is proactive is what I mean. So firstly, with the plants, I did a little trial last winter where I cut back some of the plants quite a lot. And I must say, those plants grew back better. They looked better, they were thicker, they grew taller, they grew bushier, all kinds of adjectives we use for plants. And I think it was a really good thing. So I'm going to do that with all the plants. And throughout the year, I'm going to keep trimming the plants back, because I think it works better the more you do it. And I think they will look better. They won't come out of proportion. They won't collect mess and dirt as they bend over into the water. So I think all in all, I'm just going to do a better job with the plants this year. The other thing I want to do a better job with is consistency of just being on top of maintenance, really. Now, there's a couple of reasons last year, including having really quite a bad back, which meant I wasn't really on it as well as I should be. This year, I think I'm doing a lot better. It's a lot easier. Having the pressure filter before the Tempest means I won't have to disconnect the Tempest to clean it. So that would be great. But it is a bit of a pain doing some of the maintenance on my pond and my filtration, even though I've got it as user-friendly as I can. Partly because I've got no drain in the back garden to pump water to, either when I clean my filters or do a water change. And so I have to run pipe work from the back garden through my garage and then to the front of my house, which is a pain every time you're about to set up and do your pond filtration. You just really want to go out there, do some cleaning, connect a pump up, do whatever. And having to run that pipe is a bit of a pain. So I think I'm going to make it a bit easier for myself and have some pump permanently in place, running through the back garden, through the garage wall rather than through the window, which is what I do at the moment. And it will just be a bit easier to set up. And that means I'll do all those filter cleans more often when I should be doing them. And I think more importantly, this how often I do them is that I get into a consistent pattern and a consistent routine, because I think that's really paramount in good water quality. And the final thing I really want to do better this year is feeding. I think one of the things that's struck me watching some other channels, and mainly koi keepers, because they've got fish roughly the size of the fish I've got, well, carp I've got anyway, is how much more they feed. And I think with my setup, I've got the scope, I've got the filtration to handle more food. So I'm really going to feed more and feed better quality next year. So I know what I'm going to feed, and I'll talk about that a bit more in later videos. So I had a brief exchange with A&C Koi, and they shared what they fed and how much of it they fed. Now, I'm not going to feed as much as they do, because they've got a lot more carp than I've got, but I do want to follow a similar pattern, and we'll see how that goes. Right, in terms of the channel, well, I've got some ideas. So I was meant to have released a lot more videos, but for one very significant reason, and this wasn't my heating dye, I haven't got that done, and that's because I'm renovating the kitchen in our house, and I'm not a particularly skilled DIYer, and it's just taken ages, from ripping the water damaged ceiling down, putting up a new ceiling, plastering it, putting venting for the cooker hood through the kitchen, the garage, out into the, just loads of jobs. And it's what I thought might take me 2 weeks, maybe a couple of weekends after, has now gone into sort of 6 or 7 weeks, and not every day working, but you know, and it's really taken up all my free time. But I've still got lots of video ideas, so I'm going to continue into 2023 with the unpopular opinion, which is a little bit of a clickbaity title for the videos, but I'm going to stick with it. It's YouTube anyway, isn't it? So I'll do that, and the first one will be about PP and sedate, and my thoughts on their usage in pond keeping, and principally koi keeping hobby, because I think they're not really used so much with goldfish and things like that. But I will share that video hopefully soon. But I've got a lot of other ideas as well, and a general way I'm going to go about releasing videos. So now I'm not doing weekly videos. What I don't have to do is start talking about a topic or an incident or a situation and give weekly updates to it, because I'd much rather prefer to, maybe I'm putting in a new filter, which I won't be doing, or maybe have a new one of my fish are poorly, which might well happen. And what I'd rather do is release a video that tells the whole story. So from the first signs that the fish is unwell, to how that progressed, what tests I did, and what treatment I then used, if any, and give you a kind of complete story in one video, which I think may not really work in terms of getting people to come back and watch videos on your channel, but I think I'll find it much more interesting to make that kind of video. I've also got a number of other more sort of semi-documentary, if that's not too pretentious, a way of looking at videos. I've been planning one around nutrition and carp for a long time, and problem is now I've got so much information that actually putting it together and writing some kind of script and getting notes together, it's just going to be a lot of work, and I really need a week off work when I'm not renovating a room in my house to get that down and get that finished, because I think it will be really interesting. So I will get that done at some point, no promises. And I was also going to do a video about YouTube channels and communities, which I think was very relevant at the time I thought of doing it, because there were a few, YouTube disagreements going on, and I just wanted to share a bit of my experience of sort of 20 plus years of being online, which I'm sure lots of us have had, and sort of some good ideas and bad ideas, really. I still may make that, because I still think it's useful. But maybe not quite as relevant as it was when I thought of it. So that still might come out. Now, as much as I want to have sort of those kind of videos and some kind of more kind of documentary and fact-based kind of videos, I've really got a big project for next year. And it's one I thought of for a while, and I'm eventually going to do it. And what I want to do is a year in the life of the pond. Now, that is predominantly all underwater filming. And I know it's not really the type of video that kind of works that well on a YouTube channel, but I really want to do it. Now, what that would entail is videoing in the pond 2 or 3 times a week, collecting all those videos, and then telling a story of the changes that go on through the pond, the changes of the fish, how their behavior, activity levels, health, growth changes throughout the year, their interactions with each other, and also how the pond changes, how light changes at different times of day and different times of year, how the water clarity changes through the year, and what other kind of life there is in the pond, including frogs and insects and whatever. Now, you may have noticed in the last sort of 6 months or so, I haven't done a lot of underwater filming, and that was something I did. Vast majority of my time on my channel was underwater filming, and it's kind of, if anything, what my channel was known for, really. And I think I did that better than I did, oh look, I've made a filter kind of videos. Even if not so many people watch them. But I haven't done a lot for the last 6 months, and there's a reason for that. And that is the video camera I had. Now, you may know I started my channel, and I started off with a GoPro 3, which was secondhand. And it was actually a pretty good camera, I must admit, and it lasted me quite a few years, to be honest. It was only 1080p, but the actual image quality was really, really good, and I took quite a lot of videos with it, and it was great. And then it stopped working. So last year I got this 4K camera for Christmas. Now again, It's 4K. It's upside down. Is it upside down? No. It's 4K, but the image quality is much poorer than my old GoPro 3. Now, as I'm sure you know, resolution doesn't equal image quality. It just equals number of pixels. And I had all kinds of problems with this camera. Principally, that when you film underwater, you lose some of the colours. Now, you may have seen, if you see pictures of my fish out of the water, like there, you'll see there's a lot of colour there. There's black, there's bronze, there's all different kinds of shades of colours, which you lose when you video underwater, and they all become a bit grey, maybe with a hint of brown. Now, I've always wanted to try and make the fish look like they do out of water when they're underwater, to just add some colour to the image and sort of show the fish in their true light, really. Although you could argue it's not really their true light, but stick with me. Now, to do that, when I was editing my videos, I'd use white balancing and colour grading to get the desired effect. And when I had my GoPro 3, that would take me, once I learned how to do it, it would take me tops of 5 minutes for each video clip to get the colour grading and the white balance right. When I use this camera, it could take me up to an hour, and then sometimes I still couldn't get it how I wanted to. So I really stopped videoing underwater as a result, to be honest. But now Christmas has come again, and I have got from my lovely family a GoPro 9, so a 4K proper GoPro, brand new as well. I was only asked for a second-hand one, to be honest, but a brand new one. And so I'm definitely going to do more underwater filming, and I really want to do this year-long project. Now, I may film all year and think I haven't really got enough of a narrative, not as much has changed, and you probably would predict what has changed, but I want to kind of invest the time and the storage space on my computer for doing it, and hopefully it'll be an interesting video. And it's not going to be a video until, it probably won't be released till 2024, after I've got all the video and edited it all together. But I'm really looking forward to doing that. But generally I'll be doing more underwater filming as well, so hopefully that will be interesting to everybody. So that's my plan for 2023. Hopefully it'll be more interesting than maybe I've made it sound. So I hope you tag along, and if you're not subscribed, please do. And I'd also like to thank lots of new subscribers that I've had, and I'd like to thank Gaz from Gaz's Koi Pond, who does a live show, and he's done a couple of shout outs for me on his live show, and I've got a ton of new subscribers, and I'm really, really grateful. I don't always get to join in with his show because I work funny hours and work from home, and sometimes I have to do work when I'm working from home. Terrible, isn't it? So I don't always get to join in, but it's a really welcoming group of people, and they're really supportive. So if you don't watch that, I'll post a link in the description. I think you really should. And again, thank you to them because they've been really supportive. So that's it. Thanks again for watching. I hope to see you all through 2023, and thanks very much. Goodbye.